Leadership is hard. And I've got some good news and I've got some bad news for you. The bad news is that I can't make it any easier. But the good news is that we can work on it together to get better. And you want to know the secret? Who you are comes before what you do. It's form before function. So let's get to work together. I'm Preston Poore, and this is PQ. Today's PQ guest is a leader who's made a profound impact in industries ranging from hospitality to entrepreneurship. She's worked with iconic brands like Disney and Chick-fil-A, founded her own luxury sleepwear line, Slumber Sleepwear, and serves as CEO of the Trilith Foundation. She's also an author of The Power of Customer Experience and The Strength of Purpose, where she shares invaluable insights on leadership, customer service, and living with purpose. In this episode, we'll explore her journey as a business leader, entrepreneur, and author, and how purpose drives everything that she does. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Dixon. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here today. Hey, let's jump right into it. Let's go to college. Let's go back to your college days. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you in college. There must have been some type of tipping point for you as you were thinking about business, entrepreneurship, and that. Tell me about that.
I found myself in school, for the academics, but probably for the social component just as much. I loved college, and I did not know what my skills and gifts were at the time. And I really had no idea what to major in. And I was at that critical point. I was around sophomore year where I needed to pick a major if I was going to be efficient with my school time. And my parents were pretty clear that I wouldn't be able to be a forever college student. So I needed to pick a major. And I had talked to my dad. He always has great sound questions. And I said, Dad, what should I major in? And he asked me a great question. And he said, well, what do you love? What do you love to do? And I was a ballet dancer all growing up. And I said, well, I love dance. I love the human body. I love health. And he said, well, can you major in that? And I looked into it. And at the time, there was a major for that, exercise science. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, right about that same time, the freshman 15 was coming on pretty strong.
You too,
And
wow.
yep. And I was realizing that we didn't have, at the school I went to, we didn't have a very good place for girls to be able to exercise. We didn't have a gym. There wasn't a big fitness center. And so I thought, this is a problem. Like, none of us are going to want to be at our worst. We're going to want to be at our best. So how can we stay fit? And it was in Virginia, and so it was getting cold. So I decided to pull out some Billy Blank's Tybo videos. They're VHSs, I used to slip them in and watch them on the little television in the dorm. Yeah. And some folks listening will probably be like, what is that?
Yeah.
But Billy Blanks taught me how to kick and punch and do Tybo. And I thought, well, maybe I could teach this. And so I started putting posters up around my dorm hall and said, hey, guys, let's all get together in the little lobby area and we'll do kickboxing together. Well, after just a few weeks, we had about, 25 girls all in this lobby area. We couldn't fit anymore. So I asked our student government president, hey, we don't have a wrestling team, but we have a wrestling room. Could I use the wrestling room for this idea? And he said, yeah. And he actually said, hey, you can have my boom box, which for those listening is this very large rectangular contraption that plays music. And so I said, if we do this for free, people don't value free very well. So we need to charge something. So I said, let's charge 50 cents because it was just less than a Coke, but it was more than nothing. So I was like, 50 cents a class. Well, Preston, we started to have about 100 girls showing up in this wrestling room doing kickboxing together for 50 cents a class. And I just thought that's how everybody's wired. Like, that's just what you do. You kind of see something, you see an opportunity that could be, and you just kind of scrappily move toward it. And I realized both this desire that I had to major in exercise science, which was 10 years of my career. And then this entrepreneurial side, which has been most enduring, that was the first business. The school ended up buying the business. I hired about 5 more instructors. They were really good at kicking and punching. And I was like, I see a future for you and I will teach you. I probably broke a lot of rules and didn't have a lot of things that now I know, like insurance. I didn't have any of that stuff. But I learned at the time that I love to create things and build things, especially if they're going to add value and impact people's lives in some sort of a positive way.
That's awesome. That's seeing an opportunity, a problem that you can go solve and then engage in the way that you did with that entrepreneurial spirit and building that. That's fantastic. And then I love the end of it. The punchline is that you actually sold it to the school, right? So that's fantastic. How fun. So let's fast forward. I want to bring all the way from college to now, right? You're at the
Okay.
Trilith Foundation, CEO of the Trilith Foundation, and everything that apparently you do is rooted in purpose and intentionality. I want to kind of make that a little bit of a theme today is about purpose, but can you share a little bit about how your journey's led to this point and what inspired you to focus on those areas of the intentionality and purpose?
For sure. I think purpose for me is central. It's become something really important. I wrote a book on it recently, and it was probably 8 or 9 years ago that I realized that I was not defining my purpose with who God created me to be, but I was really defining my purpose with where I worked. And that was a really dangerous thing because I think that when we define our purpose by where we work or by a season of life we're in, when something shifts or changes around that, then we find ourselves lost. And so having a clear purpose as a leader, I think is really important because for me, I think there's lots of great definitions of leadership, and I agree with pretty much all of them. But when I've asked myself, what is the kind of leader that I want to be? The way I've answered that is I want to be a safe guide that inspires up.
Good.
And that was important to me. I came to that partially because I've been in leadership, under leadership that was very, very safe. And I've been under some leadership that wasn't safe. And feeling that difference, I thought I want to be a leader that can create that safety. And because I am an entrepreneur, I want to push for what's next. And you really can't push for innovation and change if you're not rooted in a safe place because you're going to fail. And if you're failing in an unsafe environment, that's a lot to take on as an individual. So having that safety is really important. Guide, I think, is really important because we want to follow people who've been down the road already. And I remember last summer, my husband and I went out to Utah and we went mountain biking. And we had this really young mountain biking guide who was going to take us on the trail. Now, this guy has probably been on that mountain biking course hundreds of times before, but he had never guided it. He'd personally been on it, but he hadn't guided it. And the next morning when we woke up to meet him, he told us that he went out on it the night before. We're like, really? And he said, yeah, I wanted to do the course with the mindset that I was going to have people with me. That I thought, yes, like being a guide, whether it's in leadership or it's literally mountain biking, you have to look at the trail differently, knowing that people are following you. If you're just hiking for yourself or going for yourself, you might push a branch out of your way, but if you let go of it, it's going to slap the person behind you.
Hmm.
For me, I want to be a leader who is walking down those trails and those paths. Yes, because maybe I've walked them before, but also with this mindset of who's behind me. But then also this intention of being a safe guide is it's really important to who I want to be because it's tied to the legacy that I want to ultimately leave behind. And I definitely don't do it perfectly, but it's an aspiration I have to continue to grow into.
Yeah, I love that. And John Maxwell says something. He says, a leader knows the way and shows the way. So that's a very
Mm.
similar type thought process. I love the analogy of the guide going before you and then understanding what that looks like against it. And so, Elizabeth, it's funny. I've been taught a long time ago that initially, when we have a conversation with somebody, the first question we ask them right out of the gate is, "What do you do for a living?"
Oh,
And by
yes.
starting by that question just gives this, I guess, this nod to the fact that a lot of people find their purpose in their life, they think it is about what they do. For example, I
Yes.
worked at Coke for 20 plus years, and people ask me what I do for a living, and I work for Coke. It's, I bleed red, if you will, for Coke, but that's really not who I am. And what do you think about that concept?
I completely agree with you. And I think when we think about purpose, I like to think of purpose as why we exist. Mission is what we do. And we mix those up. To your point, when someone says, "Hey, what do you do?" Like we're talking about our mission. Like this is maybe the season I'm in, the action I take, but it's not why we exist. And we get those complicated and confused. And the danger so often is that when we define our purpose by a season of life, by a job description that we have, we can get ourselves so far off track because a hard economic time is going to come and maybe we lose that job or someone else gets that promotion that we've been aspiring toward and been setting our sights on. Or we feel that we're called to move in a different direction and jump out of the boat and go in a new place. And suddenly that answer to the question of this is what I do, this is who I am, it shakes our whole foundation. And it's that strength of our foundation that determines the strength that we're going to live from. And the other thing that I think about is when we are defining our purpose by a job that we're in, a job description, we are in essence extracting our purpose from our work. But the alternate of that is if we define our purpose and say, okay, in this season, this is where I'm bringing my purpose, then we actually are adding value. We're bringing our purpose to our work instead of extracting our purpose from our work. And so whatever that can mean for someone, whether they're a stay-at-home parent for a season and they're like, well, I'm not contributing to a level that I used to. It's like, well, no, you probably are. You're able to still live out your purpose in that season as you were as an executive in that role that you had, or you find yourself laid off and you're like, well, what is my purpose in life? Well, your purpose wasn't your job description.
That's
It's
right.
something way greater than that. Or retiring and going, wait, everything in the past is what my purpose was about. What's my purpose about now? It can still be true. And maybe you have a whole lot more free time to play golf. But I think when we view our purpose as something that's ours and we're bringing it to our work, we actually get to add a whole lot more value to our work, and our purpose gets to stay true regardless of the challenging seasons that come.
No, that's so good and so rich on it. I think it was Mark Twain that said that the two most important days in someone's
Mm,
life is the day they're born and the day they discover why. How do you discover your purpose? How do you, I know that's a tough question. That's an evergreen question. That's an existential question, but I love to ask my guests that. But from your perspective, Elizabeth, help the audience understand maybe if they're grasping and trying to grappling a little bit about purpose, how would they go
yes.
about discovering that?
Well, I feel a little silly answering this and saying, get a copy of my book. But I will
Nice.
say I put a lot of heart into answering that because the statistic is 75% of people don't know their purpose in life.
That's right.
And when I went through one of those rocky times where I thought, whoa, the vision I had for where my life was going just got shifted. And I realized that I was defining my purpose by the organization I worked for. Thought this is a dangerous space. So what do I do now? And I felt that I was blessed to have access to a lot of incredible resources. And if I was asking these questions, there might be a handful of other people out there, the other 75%, that are thinking, I don't know that I can put words, or I'm afraid to put words to my purpose in life. So through that journey, it was probably a 2-year journey of wrestling with how do I come to this statement or sentence that I can center my life around, my decisions around. I came up with 5 questions, and all 5 questions are in the book with the intent to help spark what are these key things that have been in me since I'm young? I mean, I'm convinced that looking at my kids, they're 9 and 11 now, there are natural giftings in them that are going to tie into the purpose that God created them for. But sometimes we get old and we kind of box out and put aside those deep core natural giftings because we heard that we're good at this, or we're told that we should do this, or this is the industry that has, I can make money at. So this is what I need to do. And over time, these natural pieces of who we are and who we were created to be get stuffed. And so the book is really to help bring all of that back out. Like, what are the things that we're good at? What are the topics that just make you come alive, that you're passionate about, that you want to fight for and be a part of? All of those are really great indicators for what your purpose can be for the world.
So good. So good. Thank you for that. I want to move on and talk a little bit because you talked about the writing, and I also know that we're both speakers, right? And that's how we kind of
Yes.
met, is through Voices to Connect, and Jessica and Julie,
Yes.
our speaking agents. And I had the joy of listening to you actually down at a Office Pride workshop that you delivered down in Orlando. So that was a lot of fun to listen to you. But what are some key messages that you're consistently sharing with audiences right now? What's on their heart, mind, and soul in businesses that you're going into to address?
The main two buckets have to do with customer experience and with purpose. And so, with customer experience, a big piece is around culture. Having a culture that the employees really want to work for and come alive in, because the customer experience will never be better than the employee experience. So, really helping teams and organizations think about the quality of the culture that they're creating, because that is the greatest indicator for success and growth as a business. Mindset, our mindset, it determines what we get in life. And so, really helping frontline employees understand the mindset for how they're showing up to work. When I led hospitality for Chick-fil-A, I had a lot of great resources for me around strategy. But where the customer experience really happens, customers weren't meeting me. They weren't interacting with me for their customer experience. They were interacting with the team member at the local restaurant. And that's what was making their experience great, or that's what had the potential to make their experience poor. And so, mindset, understanding what mindset am I showing up to work with? And when a frontline team member understands the power that they have in creating an exceptional experience and creating impact on the life on the other person across the counter or table or desk from them, it brings to life that experience. But it can be really hard to get the frontline teams to truly understand the impact that they can have. And then there's a bunch of others around innovation and constantly pursuing what's next. We have to be going, as Wayne Gretzky would say, where the puck is heading and thinking about what's next. But we can be in seasons, especially as small business owners, where we're just trying to get the next thing done, let alone think about the third wave of innovation and what could be coming that could be disruptive. And so, finding those very simple ways to be able to stay ahead, even when you're running and leading a small business that causes you to have to be so much in the day to day. And then, of course, the purpose piece. When
Sure.
we know our purpose, we can bring that to our work, and it makes the work, the organization, so much more successful, so much more powerful. And we get to have fun. And just seeing that in people's eyes when they love what they get to do and they jump out of bed for it. I mean, that is one of the most powerful things when organizations are full of people who are purpose driven and they're bringing that passion and purpose to their work. And so, being able to inspire audiences with that, to answer those hard questions for themselves so they can be better and their organizations can be better.
Yeah, that's awesome. I learned a long time ago a phrase from Dale Carnegie training that I used to be involved in. The phrase was, when your feet hit the floor in the morning, do you say, "Oh God, it's morning," or do you say, "Thank God it's morning"? Right?
Ooh,
And so
that's
that's
so
the
good.
mindset. And if you can say, "Thank God,"
Yes.
that's so important to bring. I spent a lot of time talking about employee engagement and culture, but the other side of that is, you've got leadership doing all these things for the organization to set up an environment, but the associate to come in and, to your point, bring that mindset in is critical, because I use the word symbiotic. I mean, they're linked together. They've got to work together. And so the associate, the employee, has to bring their best self to work, but they also have to be inspired to do so. So that's so important to talk about, certainly.
A
Hey,
hundred percent.
what's amazing about you, Elizabeth, so I looked into your background. You've got a lot of stuff going on, don't you? I mean, a lot of things, business-wise and all of that. How do you balance everything?
Well, I think it was probably how many years ago? 15 years ago or so. Well, I should just say I have an amazing husband. That's probably the
Helps,
short
right?
answer. I could
Yeah.
just say that and then move along. And because of him, we're really, really focused on doing what we do best and helping bring more people along to do what they do best. And so I feel like I represent a small piece of a pie, whether that's with Slumber Sleepwear or that's with Trilith Foundation or that's with speaking. Like you mentioned, Jessica and Julie. Julie is the one who helps work on all the contracts and bring together all the details. I love to speak. My gift is not sales and negotiation. And so that is Julie's. She's amazing at that. And so my husband and I have both found the more that we can figure out what piece of the pie we can specifically add value at, and we're passionate about and we love, and then partnering with people who are really great at the rest of the pie, it makes it look like a whole lot more is going on, but we're really staying in our lane of doing what we're really good at and getting to do it with people who are really exceptional.
Yeah, that's so good. It's the old phrase that says, or cliche, it takes a village. It does, doesn't it,
Yes.
to get everything
Yes.
done? And
If you want to do a lot.
oh yeah, yeah, you have to. That's another phrase out there. You do things by yourself, you can go quicker sometimes, but you can go further with others that help you in that. And
Yes.
having the right people, if you can figure out what you do well and do those very well, and then hire out what you don't do as well. I'm not a great networker, if you will, right? So I try to figure out how other people can help me make those connections. So it's important to build
Yes.
that around you, certainly. Awesome. Okay, so good. Hey, so I go by this philosophy that how is greater than what. And what I mean by that is that
Mm.
how you do something, it trumps or is greater than what you actually do. And the
Mm.
reason I say that is often we may accomplish something great together, which is wonderful, but you'll always remember people about the how you got there, you were treated, and you'll be remembered by that. Tell me a little bit about maybe that philosophy, how that applies to some of the things you're doing at the Trilith Foundation.
Yes. So for those who aren't familiar, Trilith is a soundstage movie studio in South Atlanta. And what's crazy is that 10 years ago, it was a cow pasture. And now it's the second largest film studios in the world and the
Nice.
largest film studios in North America, which is just mind blowing. So the foundation is one of the nonprofit aspects of that, which is focused on enriching the lives of creatives who inspire the world. When you think about culture, culture is shifted by the creative community. It's the television shows we watch, it's the movies we watch, it's the songs that we listen to, it's the entrepreneurs creating new and better things. That shifts culture. And so we said, what if we could pour into and enrich the lives of those who are shaping culture mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and relationally? So within that work, I love this, the how over the what, because I think there's both ways to look at it. We've certainly been in those situations with people that, um, we actually say this at our house a lot. What you're saying is really good. How you're saying it, you need to try again. Like we say that a lot, and it's
Yeah,
not just to our kids. Sometimes it's for us as adults as well.
absolutely.
So there's that side of it, but there's also this side that I think is really fun to think about, and I'll relate it to golf. The what you do is like you take a white ball and you're going to hit it with a club and you're going to make it go in a specific direction. But you've seen those professionals on television that how they do it, they just make it look so effortless that where you're convinced, whether you golf or not, we're like, I think I could do that. Like, I think I could look like them. They are so effortless about it. And I think about the Trilith Foundation, we do a lot of events, and there is a woman I get to work with, Jordan, and she's in charge of all the events. And so what she does is create these beautiful environments with incredible communicators or artists and create a special moment for folks who are coming. But when you're at an event and you watch her moving around, the how she brings that event to life, she makes it look so effortless. Like she is just delighting and having fun in that moment. If you put me in that moment, I'd be like stressed.
Yeah.
Is everybody in their places? And is everything right? And if you came up and said, hey, Elizabeth, could we totally pivot what's on stage? I would be like, absolutely not. Like, make a plan, follow the plan. But the how she does it, she makes it look so effortless. And so I think there's the side of what we can be doing could be good, but we have to be careful about how we're doing. But there's this also other extreme of when we're aligned with our purpose, the what we're doing becomes so much more effortless. It
Mm.
becomes fun. We think, well, everybody is probably good at this because this just feels second nature to me. No, it's probably because you have this incredible gift that's been crafted and developed over time that has led you to this place that you feel effortless about it. So I completely agree with you. And I love thinking about it as a bit of a spectrum of when we're really aligned with our purpose and what we're passionate about doing, our how becomes so beautiful and effortless.
Oh, so true. So good. Thank you for analogies and reinforcing that. That's fantastic. I just want to move through a couple more thoughts here. Tell me about the role of faith in leadership from your perspective.
I think for me personally, my faith is core to who I am. My faith, my belief system, my soul is just as integrated as me as a person as my physical well-being and my mental well-being. It's a core part of who I am. And so I think that we're at an interesting time where sometimes faith and work, it's almost like there has to be this separation. But part of me is like, I don't know that you can separate your soul from the things that you do. Can you separate religion from the things you do? 100%. But when I think about faith, it's so central. It's a stream of who I am. And so it has to be interconnected. Um, but I think there have been situations that I've seen in the past where religion and work get connected in a way that gets really messy
Yeah,
and I
sure.
think difficult for folks. But I think when it comes to faith and work, there is just a lot of overlap because I bring my heart and my soul into the things that I do. And so naturally, my belief system and my soul is going to overflow onto the things that I'm working on. And my hope is that it feels like love. That on the
Yeah.
other side of that, my belief system and my faith to you just feels like love and hope and that's that.
That's so good. Yeah. So if the way you treat other people, right, is the dignity, the respect, the empathy for other people. That's the love that's being shown for other people as you do that. So it's a fantastic way. And I love your delineation between, I've never heard of it and thought of it that way, is the delineation between bringing your faith into the workplace versus religion, right? And
Mm.
so how that can be
Hmm.
messy. And I think that's so good. I read a statistic from Barna. They did a study called Christians at Work a while back, and they said that only 25% of the people out there that profess some level of faith said that they were actually living out their faith in the workplace. That means 75% weren't. So that's 75% similar to your purpose statement you made earlier, right? That 75%
Yes.
of people don't have a purpose. At the same time, 75% of people that are believers don't know how to live out their faith in the workplace. And they may have this perception where they're keeping things separate because they've experienced that religion in the workplace type thing, and they haven't had a good role
Yes.
model. So I
Yes.
loved your way of thinking about that, about just bringing yourself in and what the Lord's doing in and through you into the workplace makes a big difference.
I think it really does make a big difference because if my objective is to change somebody else's belief system, that probably doesn't have a great place. In the same way, changing your belief system about what kind of and belief system, your purchasing decisions about what kind of milk you buy at home or what kind of car you drive. If I bring an agenda to convince you to do something different, it probably is not going to feel good to anybody. But if I'm thinking about bringing who I am and thinking more about clothing myself with kindness and compassion and love and generosity and sharing that with others, then that's what you just said. It's dignity, it's honor, it's respecting other people. And to me, that is that big difference between religion in the workplace and faith in the workplace. There's no agenda with faith in the workplace. It's just being who I've been created to be in a way that loves other people. And that truly is it. There's no expectation beyond that.
That's so good. Hey, let's talk about legacy. When you go out 5 years from now and you see Elizabeth and you've left a legacy, what would that look like from a business perspective, a family perspective, a faith perspective? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. So I'll answer it in three ways, I
Okay.
think. Um, At Trilith Foundation, I have the legacy is getting to build out a safe space and way for creatives to be enriched, for flourishing to happen in the creative community. You've heard the term starving artist. There are a lot of challenges within an artist community. Getting into the industry is hard. Staying in the industry is hard. The vulnerability that's required to create a great work, whether that's a song or a movie or a poem or a painting, there is immense vulnerability required to create art for the world. So having a safe place to be able to pour into the flourishing of artists, I hope that we're able to truly build that. We're 17 months in to it. And so I think we've come a really long way, but I'm really excited about the next few years of really, really establishing that. I think when it comes to slumber, I hope the legacy I leave is women looking really cute, going to bed and feeling great and sleeping great,
Yeah.
and being able to have, you know, look great even as they get older. And then I think for my life, whether that shows up in speaking or writing or the most important side here in my home with my own family, I hope the legacy I leave is one that is related to hope and faith. I hope that someday when people talk about me when I'm long gone, and they'll probably talk about me for a short bit and then we'll move right along, but I hope they go, wow, she lived her life in a way that reminded me that there is hope in this world, and she lived her life in a way that reminded me that I can have faith and live out my own personal purpose and way of expressing that. So that's what I would hope in the big sense of the question.
For sharing that. Hey, let's move to the last question of the day before we move into our hot seat.
Yeah.
I want to think about the emerging leaders. That's who we're hopefully connecting with today. Certainly, what advice would you have for emerging leaders who are looking to make a meaningful impact in their communities or industries?
Just like keep taking those steps forward. I think it's really easy for us to think, oh, I'm young. Oh, I don't have this experience. Oh, they know so much more than I do, so I won't speak up or show up or go for it. But I think just put yourself out there and go for it. I think the world needs us to take those risks and put ourselves out there and try new things. And I think for the established leaders that have gotten comfy in the space, they do something wildly new and different that puts you in the student mindset again. My dad was great at this. Every few years, he'd pick a new skill, a new thing. He learned to play the drums, the electric guitar, play golf. Now he's skeet shooting, and he's learned Spanish.
Hmm.
And I think he did it because he wanted to keep his brain healthy. So if for no other reason, just for brain health, do something new and start to trigger and fire those brain synapses to connect in new ways. But I think also putting ourselves as the student again, the novice, the newbie, it's so good because it reminds us like we don't have to have everything all together. That's what I loved about starting at Trilith. I was 20 years at Chick-fil-A. I knew way more about chicken than I knew anything about film. And so for the first 6 months, I was just putting together all of the new pieces and the things that I needed to know. And it felt so heavy on my brain, just like learning how to play golf, just like learning the sleepwear and retail and fashion industry. I knew nothing. But once you get into it a bit, you're like, oh, not only do you learn how hard it is to start, and it reminds you like, hey, be easy on the folks that are just starting out. But also, I think it reminds us that things are figure outable. Like everything is figure outable. If you just like have a great mentor, if you're willing to be a student and ask silly questions, and if you're willing to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, then it allows us to be like, maybe some of these super complex things are figure outable, and maybe it's something that I want to step forward in and help figure out for the world.
It's something I learned at Coke was that curiosity was a behavior that was valued there. And so the
Mm,
theme of being curious and asking questions to potentially solve problems and flush those things out. And to your point, not knowing everything, but if you're curious, you can go discover different things, different ways to do things on that. So that's really good.
yes. And for anyone that wants to be curious but doesn't feel like they're curious, Warren Berger has a great book called A Beautiful Book, a More Beautiful Question. And then he has a second book called Book of Beautiful Questions. And
Nice.
so, like, those are great resources to pick up and just pick 5 new questions to ask that are going to help expand thinking and help you look at the world just a little bit differently.
Excellent. All right. Great reference point. Thank you for all those questions. Anything else on your mind before we go into the hot seat? Did I miss anything?
If you miss anything, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I have a whole bunch of questions that I could just turn around and ask you right now.
Let's do that another time. I want to put you on the hot
Okay.
seat. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's the one item that you can't live without during your morning routine?
Um, Silk almond creamer.
Nice. All right. How many cups of coffee do you drink in the morning?
When half
Good.
calf.
Oh,
Too
good
much
for you.
caffeine's not. Yeah, it's
Not good,
I
huh?
get no little bit too
Jittery, huh?
excited.
I do about 2.5 and 3. So, but
There you
I
go.
get up very early in the morning. All right, let's go to the next one. If you had to describe your leadership style in a movie title, what would it be? Your leadership style in a movie title, what would it be? Hard question.
Climbing the summit, reaching the summit, something
Nice.
that would be like that.
Aspirational, moving up and moving forward on that.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the most
Yeah.
unusual thing that you've ever eaten before?
Oh, octopus. Like it still
Ooh,
had the suction things on it.
really?
It was oh, it was
Yeah.
hard. It was
Not going
hard.
to do that one again, huh?
No. Mm-mm.
Hey, how about, are you a fan of spontaneous adventures or do you prefer to plan everything out in detail?
Ha! After 14 years of marriage, I've learned to be less planner and more spontaneous. But I
Nice.
would say by nature, I love a good plan.
You like a good plan. Is your husband the same way or is he different?
Oh, he is spontaneous. Like
Is he?
we are on the opposite extreme. So together we've found that when we go on trips, the way that we find a really good blend is that I plan one thing per day. So
Okay.
I don't plan the whole day. I just
Got it.
plan what we're gonna hike the Narrows in Zion, and then the rest of the day is spontaneous.
That's awesome. I like that. I love the blend of that. My wife, Carla, always busts my chops. I'm a planner too by nature. And I'm so bad at planning. I actually ask the first question before we go to a party or a get together is when do we leave? That's my planning, right? So I'm always thinking about it. When are we leaving? When are we getting out of here? So no offense to any
That's
party or
awesome.
anywhere I go, but that's what we do. All right. Let's see. How about what's a quirky habit you have that most people don't know about you? A quirky habit.
Gosh, I feel like our quirks we think are normal. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what are the normal things that I do that other people will be like, that's weird?
Well, for instance, I'll help you think for a second. For instance, I'm pretty
Thank you.
bad about angles. I used to work for the Hershey Company. One of my jobs was to go out and look at planograms to make sure products were in the place, and so I'm always looking at lines. And so at our
Yes.
house, everything is typically angled picture wise. If
Yes.
it's out,
Yes.
so I'm one of those guys that goes around and does that. That's pretty quirky.
Yes, I'm very similar to that. Our couch will get shifted because the kids will kind of like jump on it and then it'll
Yeah.
move. And I do walk into the family room and I'm like, hold on,
Yeah.
everybody off the couch. We have to move it back. So
Yeah.
I relate to that. I relate
Yeah.
to that.
So good. I think that's A-type personalities like us that we have that out there. So that's good. Hey, how about if you could listen to only one song for the rest of your life? One song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Gosh, well, right now it's cyclical for me and it'll just be in seasons. But right now it would be Forrest Frank's Good Day. I'm
Okay.
about to have a good day.
That's a great song. I love it. Good
Yes, we
stuff.
can love.
Hey, okay, here's an interesting one. What's your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
So, in this season of being able to stream content, you don't have to wait till every Thursday at 7 o'clock. You can just stream stuff. My husband and I will just go one television show at a time and go through the whole thing one at a time. So the one we're on right now that's really pretty funny is called Young Sheldon on
Yeah.
Netflix
Oh, yeah.
about this little guy who's in 9 and he's super, super smart. So that's what we're on right now.
That's good. Young Sheldon's based on the Big Bang Theory, right? Which is
I
based
think
on Caltech students.
so.
So that's
Yeah.
Sheldon. That's funny. It's good stuff. Mine right now, just in case you're interested, I'm watching Friends. So I am binging on Friends. There's 236 episodes of Friends. I don't know if you know that over the 10 years. And I'm on
Wow.
season 10, episode 11, believe it or not. So that's my guilty
That's
pleasure.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Yeah. I need to put that on my resume, right? When I get done, I could put that
You
on there. So that,
should.
yeah,
I think you
awesome.
should do that.
Okay, a couple more. If you could swap lives with any character in a book or a movie, what would it be and why? Swap characters. And you're in the movie industry, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Okay. This is a really fun exercise. 'Cause I'm like, I have my answer, but now I want to analyze my answer.
Yeah, don't do that.
Um, it would be Madam Secretary. Taya Leone is the
Yes.
actress who
Yes.
plays the Secretary of State. She and her husband's marriage, John and I relate a lot to it. Like the husband is total strength, but the wife is more out front
Mhm.
and, on the stage and in front, but the husband is actually the one that's like the solid, strong
Yeah.
and steady. John and I relate a lot to that. So it would totally be her in that show with that family dynamic.
That's awesome. There's another show called The Diplomat that has Kerry Russell in it, has a similar theme behind it. She's an ambassador. You got to watch
Yes.
that. That's good too.
I haven't seen that yet.
Sharing notes. All right, two more. What's the most daring thing that you've done outside of your professional life?
I've been skydiving. I love surfing. Um, Ice climbing.
Like adventure. That's good. And last question, Elizabeth, for you. What's one thing that we wouldn't know about you? What's something that you normally don't let people know, something that we wouldn't know about you?
You wouldn't know about me. That my aspiration as a child was to be a wife and mom. That was my biggest dream, was to be a wife and mom, and it still is. And
That's
so
awesome.
being able to be mom to David and Ansley and wife to John is the best part of my life. And then getting to have fun in all these entrepreneurial aspects, it just is like cherry on top.
That's awesome. Hey, Elizabeth, you've been a great guest today. I appreciate your time. A lot of wisdom and nuggets in there. So valuable. We'll put some links into the Trilith Foundation, to the Slumber Sleepwear, et cetera, into the show notes to let everybody know about that. And so thanks for your time today. Hey, and if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, go ahead and do that or sign up for my email list. I'm Preston Poore, and this is PQ. Take care and talk soon.